Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
Cruising your way on this episode of Off 90. We'll watch a silent movie created by a local group of filmmakers. Join us for an evening of painting and revelry in Rochester. And we learn about POWs working in Minnesota during World War II. It's all just ahead, Off 90. Hi, I'm Barbara Keith. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Off 90. The Rochester Filmmakers community is an open group of filmmakers, both aspiring and established, in the Rochester, Minnesota area, who study film theory, share ideas, and collaborate on productions. We present one of their creations. It is a short film entitled Bamboozled. According to the owners of Canvas and Chardonnay in Rochester, everyone is an artist. It's a class where an art instructor will guide you step by step, replicating the evening's featured painting. They also serve drinks, play some great music, and have lots of fun. The people at Canvas and Chardonnay are confident that you will go home happy with a painting that is uniquely yours.
And have you been here before? Okay, so paints are here tonight. We've got a lot of extra tools. I've got all of our tools out here, the brushes, the pages, and I'll be your instructor. I'll be right up here in the front. All right, have fun.
It is fun. It's a ton of fun. It's a painting party. Two of my favorite things together is drinking wine and painting. You do them together with 60 of your new best friends. It just doesn't get any better than that. I'm Lisa Schneider, and I'm the owner and Chief Creative Officer at Canvas and Chardonnay. I'm from Colorado. My husband's from Rochester. I painted at Canvas and Cocktails in Denver, Colorado, and we loved it. We had so much fun, and I thought, we've got to bring that to Rochester. People in Rochester would really love this.
Hello, painters. All right, welcome to Canvas and Chardonnay. I usually don't start off like this, but I would love to see a set of hands as who's been here before. Oh my God, that might be my most ever, so totally awesome.
Tonight's instructor is my husband, Joe, and he does a great job with class. The painters always love him. He has a lot of fun on stage, and painters really enjoy him. Joe loves to talk, so he'll go around and he'll talk to every painter here and make sure that they're engaged and having a good time.
Now we have Kat and Leah working the bar tonight. Okay. Yes. Now they both teach classes here, so if I'm not available, flag down one of those girls and they'll be able to help you also.
We've had a lot of success with the business. We started out with 40 easels, and we started selling out our first classes about the second month we were open. And then a couple months in, we were selling out pretty much every class. And then about 6 months in, we were selling out every class. So then we expanded into the back of the building, and now we can seat 60 painters. And we're still selling out with many classes and have wait lists still on many classes. Seven days a week, 2 classes on Saturdays. All kinds of people come here. It's mostly ladies, but we do get still quite a few men. We get a lot of mothers and daughters coming, a lot of bachelorette parties, birthday parties, work parties. We do a lot of work parties. Probably every weekend we do 3 to 4 bachelorette parties. We do lots of corporate team building events. We also, it's exciting, sometimes we get 4 generations in families that'll come in. We'll have great grandma, mom, and daughter that'll all come in and paint together, and that makes a really special memory for them.
What keeps me coming back is the wonderful owners, a great atmosphere, and you get to paint and drink and hang out with your friends.
Our most popular paintings are 50 Shades of Rain. That's a mixed media one. Each night we have a featured painting that people sign up for to come in and paint that night, but not everybody always paints that. People are always free to paint whatever they like.
And you can apply the glue right in front of your easel. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna Mod Podge on 2 rows of pages onto our canvas.
Art is therapy, and people will come in stressed out after a long day of work and sit down and relax with a glass of wine and paint, and it just makes you really focused and in the moment, and kind of takes away the stress of the day. I've always been interested in art, and I've always dabbled in different mediums, whether it be pottery or watercolors or acrylic painting on canvas. I wouldn't say I'm a great artist, but I love to learn and I love to experiment, and I love to help other people get started too and get over the fear of I can't do it, and to turn that into I can. For the future, at some point I imagine we'll want to sell it and move on to our next venture, but right now we're having too much fun to even think about selling it yet. So I get the most satisfaction when people come in at the beginning of the night. Sometimes it's a wife who's dragged her husband to come to a class and he's got this look on his face like there's a million places I'd rather be. And by the end of the night he's had so much fun and is so excited and turns to her and says, "When are we coming back to do this again?" That means a lot to us.
Party on, painters! All right, awesome, thank you.
Between 1943 and 1945, 21 POW camps housing Axis soldiers during World War II were established in Minnesota. Prisoners from these camps proved to be a valuable source of manpower for agriculture, logging, and small businesses. Dean Simmons wrote a book about this absorbing episode in Minnesota's history called Swords into Plowshares.
This is a story that most people actually don't know much about. Most people, when you talk about World War II, had no idea that we had prisoners of war in the state of Minnesota. My name is Dean Simmons, and I wrote a book titled Swords into Plowshares. The book's about the prisoners of war who were held in Minnesota during World War II. Well, my interest began, I was originally from Olivia, Minnesota, and when I grew up in Olivia, there were people that were alive when I was younger that talked about the experiences of the Italians and the Germans being there. So I started that quite a while ago, actually, interviewing some of those people, writing down notes and so forth. Then, years later, I was an exchange student in Germany. And I then took it upon myself to try to find some of the prisoners, and I found a number of prisoners then who were held in Minnesota, and I went and interviewed them. And then it amassed into an interesting story about how the prisoners interacted with the Americans, how the Americans needed their labor at the time, and so forth. This story became an accumulation of a lot of oral histories about people's experiences with the prisoners during the Second World War. So when we're talking about the prisoner of war story, it's really that first moment in North Africa with the surrender of the African Corps troops, which brings about the whole prisoner of war story in Minnesota. What people often forget is what happened, for example, with those troops that surrendered in May of '43. So at that time, Britain, whom had captured them, couldn't take care of them in North Africa. They couldn't bring them back to England to take care of them there. And so at this time, it was America was bringing war supplies to North Africa in Liberty-class cargo ships. And then they were going back to the United States empty. So the United States then, the custody of the prisoners was transferred from the British to the Americans. The Americans then started loading up these prisoners in these Liberty-class cargo ships, anywhere from 500 to 1,500 prisoners on each ship going back to the United States. And that also helped actually with the shipping of the goods at that time because the Germans knew the prisoners were being transported on these ships. So none of those Liberty-class cargo ships were bombed during the Second World War. In fact, it was considered probably the safest transatlantic travel at the time. Camps were established for multiple reasons. The logging camps up in northern Minnesota were there just for primarily harvesting lumber. But that was an important war commodity at the time. It was used for, some bombs had paper wrapping around them. There were shipping containers, paper products, all of those things were for the war effort. Some camps were more for farm-related work, or brick and tile companies. In New Ulm, for example, the prisoners worked in some brick and tile locations, nurseries. They helped out down near Fairmount at the Elmore Nursery. The prisoners worked there. So in those situations, the camps would have been open year-round, but primarily, if you were to look at the Minnesota experience, the prisoners were predominantly used in the canning operations for peas and corn. Also notable was the sugar beet harvest up in the Red River Valley. So we had Ada, Crookston, and Warren, Minnesota camp locations were there, primarily to supply labor to harvest the sugar beets that were there. Yeah, the treatment was pretty good. The United States adhered very closely to the Geneva Convention, so the prisoners were taken care of basically on an equivalent nature as the soldiers, the American soldiers, were here. So there were times when, for example, prisoners would arrive at a camp and they didn't have barracks lined up for them. This was down south, but to give you an idea to the extent that we went to take care of the prisoners, the United States actually moved the American soldiers, the guards and so forth, out of the barracks so that they were on equal par with the living conditions of the prisoners. As it turns out, the German High Command had sent a directive to the prisoners held in the United States that it was in their best interest to work. And they were paid. They were paid the prevailing wage of whatever the labor was in the state at the time. So typically they would hold a wage hearing in these communities about what the wage rate was for this particular type of labor. And then the prisoners, the money then was given to the government. The government then maintained their living quarters, provided them food, medical care, dental care, and then the balance of which then was given to the prisoners in a trust fund account in their name. Now, sometimes prisoners did go out of the compound. There was one notable escape out of northern Minnesota where 2 prisoners had escaped and the FBI was notified and local newspapers were running pictures of the prisoners. They were captured a couple days later trying to make their way down the Mississippi River. What was more common with the prisoners is they would leave at night and then come back. Sometimes it was never known that they left the camp compound, but sometimes it was. In Owatonna, for example, one of the prisoners had escaped and was picked up at the local county fair, at the Steele County Fair, riding the Ferris wheel. So there were these instances where prisoners would get out of the compound. So I think, the overarching lesson, theme, legacy of this whole story was treating them decently. In the long run, we sent sort of messengers of our process, our way of life back to Europe and helped rebuild Europe out of that dictatorial background that it had experienced for such a long time. It's definitely a piece of Minnesota history that's unique. When one has an opportunity to visit and get some of this information, if it's not obtained early enough, it's gone forever. And one family whom I had been in contact with had photos at one point in time when I did a follow-up with them to obtain and get copies of the other photographs. They had since been thrown out accidentally. So sometimes these things happen where if there's not an effort made to collect the information at a certain point in time. And for me, I was kind of in the right place at the right time. I happened to be an exchange student in Germany. I spoke German, I speak German, and so I was able to take advantage of my location and my skill set at that time to get a lot of this information put together into one concise publication.
When people look at my art, they are seeing real life, rural America. I don't try to paint anything sugar-coated or magical in my work. My work is really the cross-section of rural America. I've always said, anybody who looks at my work knows exactly who I am because I paint who I am. You know, I paint the things that I love and I paint the things that are really right in my backyard. I grew up on a farm. I grew up on a dairy farm, one of 8 children. What we learned as kids on the farm is what has stayed with me my entire life, and that is that there's beauty in just the simple joys around you and the things that money can't buy, really. You know, the rising sun and the newborn calf, and working together as a team to get the crop in, working as a team to get the chores done, and there's just this underlying sense of accomplishment that comes along with working hard and doing your part. There are a few of us who have been lucky enough to be born and grow up on a farm, and that's a part of our heritage. It's just a part of our roots. And you know, I think our job is to teach the rest of the world. I mean, we're responsible to raise the crop, to feed the world, and I think it's our job to teach people about the importance of agriculture. I'm a self-taught artist, so everything I do I've learned on my own and through self-study. I started out painting almost 25 years ago, and really in the very beginning started painting cows because I grew up on a dairy farm. And then in the last 10 years started to branch out into the other sites of rural America. And I guess most recently in the last 5-6 years I've started painting inspirational art as well. When you grow up on a farm and learn to appreciate really what hard work can do, it can take you anywhere. It can take you to be an astronaut or a doctor or go on in life and you know, dreaming the dream and then going out to achieve it. And for me, it all started in rural America. It all starts with our roots that are right here. I think securing those images on canvas and promoting it, number one is a commitment and a testimony to my love of agriculture and the lifestyle that we live. I, as an artist, try to capture what's in my heart and the things that I love and the things that I grew up with and the things that I knew. And fortunately, there's a lot of people who connect with that and have a love for that as well. I think the more complex our world gets and the faster we move and the more social media takes over, the more we long to hang on to simple things that bring us a feeling of love and a feeling of peace. God gave me a skill, and I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to do and playing my part of promoting agriculture and the essence of it. And it's a wonderful way to live.
That's all for this episode. If you enjoy programs like Off 90, please show your support by becoming a member of KSMQ Public Television. Keep local programming vibrant in southern Minnesota. Give us a call at 507-481-2095 or 1-800-658-2539 or sign up online at ksmq.org. Thanks for watching. Join us next time. Off 90.
Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.